All right, welcome to Intuition to Income. This is Abby Gooch, and I am here today with a dear longtime friend, Lisa Barnett. And this woman was really, I think, on our first show, probably 4 or 5 years ago, Lisa. And we just had this amazing connection now and then of just really pure light. And, you know, even before we started this, we were talking about really the new earth and how we're just being lifted up to fulfill our soul purposes, follow our intuition, and really just raise up the vibration of the planet. So Lisa does a lot of work with Akashic Records, but what I love about her is her light is so bright and so radiant, and it's just this beautiful soul mirror, you know, of just connection to truth and love and guidance. So Lisa, welcome, welcome, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Abby. It is so fun to be back with you and to actually just get a few minutes together before, you know, recording to just kind of catch up and share. So I'm so delighted to be back with you.
Absolutely, Lisa. So how is it that you were able to connect with your intuition just from the beginning of time? How that, you know, awakening happened for you?
Well, you know, my awakening is not the most common because I woke up when I was about 3 years old. And I know I was trying to communicate something to my mother, like, I don't want to eat that. I was kind of a picky eater. And, you know, when you're 3, 2, 3, 4, a lot of times the words escape you. So it was almost like I felt like, I can't communicate. I was not telepathic like I could remember being. And it was like, I'm in a body. And so, you know, that was a bit startling. I used to tell her I wanted to go back and I wanted to go home. And poor mom was just very sweet. Probably thought I was a little nuts, you know how that goes. But, you know, I was very blessed to live in California. My parents moved to California when I was 12. And so here it's the late 60s. And I remember picking up a book from my father's coffee table, and it was Baba Ram Dass, I think it was his first book, Be Here Now. And I picked that up and I read it. It was kind of a picture book, if you've ever read it. It has a lot of drawings and mandalas and art in it. And just realizing, oh, like it's time to start studying again. And so I started reading everything I could get my hands on. And at that time in history, you know, late 60s, early 70s, lots of esoteric information coming in. So I was really blessed and, you know, totally lucky in a sense to be in that environment where so many people were in an environment where they were told they were crazy. And you can't talk about that, and we're taking you to church or whatever the old stories were, right? So I really was very blessed in picking the right parents and landing in California, you know, in the 60s. And I studied all through high school. Really, I read a lot of things that, you know, esoteric writings, and on into college, I was minoring in philosophy. So I started a long time ago.
That's beautiful. You know what I love is the nurturing of the intuition. Like we were talking about, you know, a course that I'm creating for kids, and it's really about nurturing their intuition. So as a child, you were able to be nurtured in what you knew. And I think, honestly, you can thrive in any environment, right? So even if you didn't have a childhood that nurtured your intuition, you can actually use the contrast. Like, you know, so for me, I had a traumatic childhood, so it actually caused me to become more intuitive, to use that as a gift and a way to guide me, right? So whether you had a nurturing childhood of your intuition or not, either way, you can use your intuition to live more of who you are. And as you say, go back home, which is really remembering the light and love that you are and feeling good and expressing that in the world.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we have these triggers, and the triggers are here to remind us who we are. And so even when we say have a relatively supportive childhood or early life, as mine was, my triggers were very unusual in the sense that I had 2 of my very dearest friends both die before 20. One died of a brain tumor at 13. Wow. And I felt that I should have been able to heal her. And so that was one of my first real triggers towards the healing contracts and soul purpose that I had. And then the next one, who was a soul sister, died in a freak car accident. And so it's interesting because not only can triggers motivate us to go forward, but they can also, you know, really kind of detour our lives. So I'm kind of, if you're okay, feeling like this is kind of an important, strange tangent that I almost never go down, because we're here creating a new earth. And I think that it's going to be pretty interesting, like a huge roller coaster. And I think it's going to be very challenging for so many of us, so many days and times and weeks and months. And yet there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So after my very dear soul sister died in a freak car accident, I decided that I was not going to do whatever it was I came to do. So I'm 19 years old. I'm very conscious. I've been studying literally for the last 6 years. I'm studying philosophy at university. And I basically was so angry at God. I was just like, F off. I'm so over it. I am not doing whatever it was I came to do. I went on a whole different road. Now, of course, here's the crazy thing. It's the 70s and I'm in San Francisco, right? So it was a bit of a wild life. But about, you know, all you have to do is read into that just a little bit, you know. And but I said many years later to the record keepers, I said, oh my gosh, did I totally screw up? I mean, here I'm like awake at, you know, 18, 19, 20. I could have been a spiritual teacher at 22 or whatever. And they said, there really is no such thing as really screwing your life up, because all of that experience that you had gave you the awareness of the world, and it made you really compassionate for people. And so that was part of your soul path and purpose. It's never really not the right path. And the reason I say that is because I know that so many people say, I haven't found my purpose yet, or is it too late to find my purpose? Or did I totally screw my life up because I've been in banking or I became a lawyer, you know? And I think maybe I should be doing something, you know, spiritual. And so what the Akashic Record Keepers say is, no, it's all about learning and growth. That's why we come here. And so we write these kind of complex soul plans. And in that is so much about who you've come to be and all the levels and layers of your soul path and your soul purpose, because it's never one thing. Most of us have 3, 4, 5, 6 purposes, which is kind of really nice to know if you're thinking you messed up.
That's awesome. I love that. You know, I've had people say the same thing, and what I've often said is you already are on purpose, right? Like, you know, you may have felt like you deviated from it, but you can become closer to living more of it, right? So you're embodying more of it because everything serves a purpose.
Right, right. Everything truly is. And that's why I really like to talk more about our soul plan and kind of take the focus off of like, what's my purpose? Yeah. Because I think people often believe that a purpose is something like a job description. Mm-hmm. Like you should be working at this company doing this. Mm-hmm. And it's never that. And like I say, you know, if you have 3 or 4 purposes, one could be to be a parent. One could be to share your gifts and information with those children, with your friends, with your community. It could be about, you know, communication, if that's part of your purpose. But if your purpose is to be a communicator, it's again, never one thing. So as a communicator myself, it's about writing, it's about speaking, it's about teaching, it's about sharing, it's about, right? It's about being on radio shows, telesummits, podcasts, right? Doing my own TV show, whatever, all of that is about communication. And so when we look at the bigger concept, of purpose, it kind of takes some of that pressure off, I think. You know?
And to realize we're all like puzzle pieces working to the greater whole, right? Like I just started working with this other client and I told her there's a little thing, I wish I had the exact quote, but it's basically like, you're a part of something bigger than you. And so what I told her is like, when we were talking, like, wow, there is some higher reason we're connected and it's part of the greater whole. So if we understand that, we can be prompted by our intuition and the love within us guiding us to become that and realize it's all interconnected. It's all for our good and for the greater good of the planet.
And so well said. Thank you, Abby, because I think that that's a huge point for people to be aware of as we're going forward and creating this new earth. It's about community. For the last, you know, whatever, since the 80s, I think it was, you know, 60s, 70s, that was more about community. It was trying to bring forward the love and the new light. And literally what we're seeing astrologically is the completion of the 60s now. And so it's about finishing what we started back then. In a lot of ways, and moving forward in community. So co-creating is so important. And this is something that, you know, I love to see, and is also something kind of interestingly, I haven't done that much of outside of in a lot of these sort of ways. So it's like starting to think about the world in a different way, co-creating workshops, co-creating businesses, co-creating communities, villages, towns, right? Centers. And I think it's going to be really, really beautiful and relatively different as we do this over the next 10, 20, 50 years, right? But it's very beautiful because it really is about working together and sharing our light and really bringing our combined energy, wisdom, vision together. So very exciting.
I love it. So well said. I love it. So how have you followed your intuition to create greater income in your life? So I know your life is so much about service and living on purpose. And from that place, that income has followed. I know that. So can you kind of share the process of how that feels and how you were able to do that?
Yes, absolutely. So because, you know, after I went through my, you know, getting really angry and taking a huge, you know, side path for about 15 years, for me, I actually got very sick, which is another pretty common kind of trigger when we get really far off path. And it's like, hey, kind of wake back up again. Come on, time to line back up again. And so I did that really through chronic fatigue, finding a fabulous acupuncturist who eventually said to me, I think you need to see a psychic or something because there's something your soul wants to tell you that I can't get to. I can help you heal your body with the acupuncture and the herbs, but I can't get that message from your soul. So it was, of course, so perfect because then my soul came through and said, you're a healer, you know, get back to it. And so from that point of really kind of waking back up again, I said yes to following my divine guidance. Now, it started really more intuitively, but then for me, it opened into this bigger energy and information, and I started to download and channel information from the Akashic record keepers. And so I went from being an intuitive energy healer to getting this big information and thinking, wow, that's amazing. What's going on? And it actually took a couple of years of them talking to me before I kind of figured it out, who is talking to me. I always say, if some being starts talking to you, ask who they are.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take you 5 years to figure it out. I was a little slow on the uptake.
That's awesome. I love it.
You know, but this is almost 30 years ago, and it just wasn't huge common knowledge, right? It was a little different just 30 years ago, 25 years ago. It's pretty amazing how different, you know, kind of things were. But But when I realized that it was this sort of connection, and they really could talk to me very clearly, and they asked me to start a school and to help them bring the Akashic energy and wisdom back to the planet.
Yeah.
So just as my little definition of the Akashic Records is the recording of your soul's journey throughout time. And each and every one of us has our very own personal Akashic library, which has all of your records. So I like to see this little stone library with my little record keepers, my librarians. Each person has their own beings of light who keep their records, who are their personal guides and librarians, only in the records. They've never been human. They're not ascended masters. They're not angels. They're Akashic record keepers. And they keep these records, which are stored in source energy and source vibration. So when I figured all this stuff out, again, stuff takes years, it doesn't usually happen overnight. But, I really found that they could be very, very clear with me, and I did what they asked me to do. So I started a school. When they said, write a book, I said, write, I can't spell. How am I supposed to write a book? But here's the very cool thing. I could go and ask my record keepers, how do I do that? And they would say, we can reclaim past life information in which you wrote books, in which you were a published author, in which you wrote with ease. So I would go into my Akashic records and say, show me a past life in which I could do all these great things. And then we could retrieve that information and that energy and download it into our bodies now. And so for me, being able to access this divine source energy, information, and wisdom, which is huge because we're such infinite souls, to be able to go back and reclaim a dozen lifetimes in which I was an author, energetically, it made it easy. It actually took all that pressure, all of my human personal doubt, that came from Lisa, was like, yeah, that's nothing. You've been X, Y, and Z in all of these lives over the last 1,000 years, and that's all. Let's reclaim that now.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's very profound, and it has helped me in so many ways like that. And I just follow what they suggest, and it's part of my soul purpose, of course, is to help the record keepers bring the Akashic information back to humanity, which is why they asked me to start a school many years ago. And so, so for me, it's very much about the alignment to either your higher self, your higher wisdom, or your divine guidance, whether it's through the Akashic records or however, whoever you channel or your information comes from, your intuition. Really following, listening closely, really asking specific questions, getting baby steps. What's my next step? Make that easy for me. And getting that kind of intuitive guidance is profound for creating a business or being on your path or taking that next step when you're at a crossroads.
Yeah, I love that. So the inner voice of your intuition feels right. It feels good. If something's a little off, question it, because there's a greater alignment, and that intuitive gut feeling, that inner knowing, that inner voice will all match up. It'll feel right. It'll feel good. The other thing that was coming through is in the work that I do, I always tell people that a part of us already knows every feeling, everything we need to know. And so I actually will have them either go into their future, download their higher self, or in your case, you talked about going into a past life to get the frequency and information. And the reason I'm telling you this is we all have everything within us in any moment, and we can access it because we're all connected to the hologram, right? The greater whole. And so to trust that within you, I mean, I'm laughing because I remember I left college to start a company. And I remember me telling one of my friends, oh, I must not be smart enough to start a company because I didn't graduate college. And she's like, well, you already have everything you need to know. You have like a whole library of everything. I was like, you're right. I do know everything, right? That's the whole doing a success coaching process, right? Like you already know. So it's just so beautiful for everybody to recognize your wholeness. In each moment, you have access to everything you need to know. You have vibrational frequency and alignment, everything you need to know and have to fulfill your purpose. So
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
never heard somebody going back into past life to get it, but like it dawned on me, it's like, I got to tell them, you can go into higher self moment. Everything is here for you now.
Past, future, right? You can bring all of those different aspects through. Absolutely. And that's what's so very cool about being a multidimensional, being of light, because we are all that. And I think people are finally starting to really realize that we're not just this little, one-shot person, right? With just this much information. It's like, I have this whole library filled with thousands and thousands and thousands of books, which are my lifetimes here on Earth and in other places, planes, and galaxies. It's all there.
Absolutely. I love that you also shared about your story of kind of like, quote unquote, derailing from your path and how it didn't feel right. And I think we've all been there. And then it's like, what can I learn from this? And how can I learn from those negative emotions, those physical experiences that don't feel good, to actually use that as a resource to say, oh, that didn't feel good. What does feel good? Right? Like, oh, my body's out of alignment because I need psychic soul surgery. Okay, I'm going to call Abby or Lisa to get aligned, right? Like, basically, that's what you did, whatever psychic you used, right? So to get back into alignment, to use the quote unquote negative as feedback of, oh, not quite right. Good. We're going to reroute, get back in alignment. Let's go.
Right. Absolutely. But here's the other kind of part that's very cool is when we can look at that learning and that growth from, say, that time that maybe wasn't perfect alignment. But I spent 15 years as a production director in advertising. And let me just say how much that has supported me in my business to just understand, to be very organized, to be able to move projects from the beginning to the end, because that's what I did in advertising as a project director, right? From the original estimate to the complete product. And of course, that's what we do in our businesses all the time, right? And so after thinking that was ridiculous, I spent 15 years in corporate, America. I'm like, and that has been one of my greatest gifts also, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Look for the silver lining in everything we do. And this is what the record keepers were saying is we're really never off plan or purpose. We might take a little detour, but we learned and we grew. Maybe we have this kind of challenging relationship. I got married and divorced in a year. Just like, weird blurb. But again, it was like completing some old karma, learning to trust myself and not be like afraid of being alone. And so it's about very much being conscious about everything you do and what gift is in that. So for me to be able to say, oh, I went into fear about living in a new city and being 30 and not being married and not really having any friends. And I got married. I was like, well, that was ridiculous. But I learned and grew. It was,
You're so funny. I love you. You're so funny. We all have
luckily
this.
Take things easily,
Yeah. And fear, it's funny, actually, I was thinking about before our interview about fear versus intuition, right? Because I remember when I first started my school, I used to tell students, because I would watch it, when fear hits, it literally looks like this, like a zigzag in your field. Like it's like static electricity hitting your field. So I'm wondering if you have any tools to kind of derail fear or neutralize fear so people can just get solid and grounded in their intuition and in their bodies. And it's like, I think of like a tree, right? Where it's just like that electricity kind of falls out and then you're rooted in love, right? Like the roots go down like a tree of love. So is there anything that you feel you could share, Lisa, around, grounding into love and not letting fear like slap you around, or disconnect
Absolutely. I always teach my my students what I call a tripod grounding system, which is very similar because we grow roots from the bottom of our feet out, 5 feet wide and 5 feet deep out of your feet. And then we make a nice grounding tail. So you have a solid tripod, which is really nice, that goes down to the beautiful crystalline core of Gaia. So we get really solid in our lower chakras. And then we go back up into our heart, and you let your heart open and expand like a big golden spinning ball, as big as your body, which is that unconditional love. That is that beautiful and claircognizance, that deep knowingness. So we ground from our third, second, first chakras down our legs into Gaia, and then upper fourth, you can just from your heart up that beautiful golden spinning ball of unconditional love. And just as we let ourselves move through the world in that space, grounded in our bodies and seeing through our heart, through the lens of love, claircognizance, and deep knowingness, I find it just kind of changes our view of the world when we kind of drop out of our head and down into our heart and see the world from that space of unconditional love and clarity. So, and one of the things the record keepers always say is that it's so important to do this lower grounding, to get down, take your third chakra, second, first, down your legs, ground into Gaia. Because if you want to manifest and create your soul's desires, your heart's dreams, we need to be embodied in this physical plane to create and manifest here on this planet. So I know so many of us like to hang out in the ethers, right? Myself included. But really coming down into our bodies, that's what lets us create and manifest on the earth plane.
Absolutely. Put your love lenses on, everybody. And also to your point of grounding, when you were talking about that, I thought of the movie Avatar, and like literally you have this body that's bigger than your physical body, and they have a tail, like the animal, I guess, part of it, has a tail that roots down. And I was doing that with you, and it spirals down to the core of the earth when you imagine yourself having a tail. And I was just telling one of my other clients about this, like, for us to be here, we have to embody the love that we are, to carry the message. If we're not embodying it, we're not carrying it. So it's just so beautiful. I love that meditation, Lisa. Thank you. To just remind ourselves, yes, we are here on purpose as we send these grounding cords, open our hearts into unconditional love, seeing through love, opening up our third eye to the more etheric, right? So you have all three probably centers, right? So right. I love that. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful. And it's so fast and easy, really, which is like kind of we have no real excuse to not do that a couple times a day. Like, oh, am I, grounded? Am I rooted? Do I have my tripod grounding system going and activated? And I just kind of say that to myself and see those roots kind of light back up again, and that tail, oh, yep, kind of get down there. And so, and then just our hearts expand and our crown likes to open, and it just feels very lovely.
I love that. And is there any other way, again, getting back to the fear versus the love? So I think the mind can get overactive sometimes too. So you have divine guidance that comes in, right? Like we talked about it feeling right. But also the mind can get overactive when you have fear. So what's the difference between staying in divine guidance and having something take you away from that and kind of almost believing a lie or believing fear? Does that make sense? Just so there's a discernment of, yep, this is my divine guidance versus, oh, that's just a distraction or fear, some other energy at me.
Right. So one of the things I love to teach people about is that we have this analyzer in our head. Right? So it's that logical, linear left brain, all that analytical information that we've been trained is so important for us to have and use. And then I like to see it like a big power box, right? So if you had a big, flip box that had a lever that you could pull over or flip over, whatever it is, kind of like a big power box. And that's your analyzer. And you just turn it to the off position. And I just ask my higher self or my guides to help me to lock it off. I like to imagine I put duct tape around it. Seems to work for me. Or maybe you have a big golden padlock or something, that's a little prettier. But I like the duct tape. But you're literally locking it off, and you're just saying, I'm going to stay out of that kind of that energy of having to figure everything out, having to be in control, which is part of what I think really triggers a lot of that fear in us. And so by flipping off your analyzer, asking your higher self, just tell me if it's important to turn it back on. Like if you work in a bank, maybe you want to have it on during the day at work. But certainly before you meditate, to turn your analyzer off, to kind of hang out in that quiet space in your heart, out of that place of kind of linear worryingness. And the other thing that I also think is tremendously helpful is, of course, the simple idea of creating better boundaries for yourself, where you're really creating kind of, the record keepers have given me so many different guided meditations and visualizations that I teach, but you fill yourself with your highest golden energy, your whole body and your whole energy field, your whole auric field. And then I like to just create a beautiful rainbow shield around myself. And just by stating that no one and nothing may enter my physical body, my energy field, my auric field without my permission and my consent, I am activating that energetic shield. And it's not like a wall, but it is about being a sovereign soul in a singular body. It is about you owning your space and your body, which again helps you to be aligned to your path and purpose.
I love that.
Yeah, so really letting yourself fill up with you. We all have a lot of the energy, the worry, the fear, the concern of people around us. It gets into our space. So just by inviting that your higher self, your guides help you to send people their energy back for the highest good of all concerned. I want to send, all that collective consciousness back to whoever it came from. Or I can connect it up to divine source to just be moved out of my space and recycled for the highest good of all. So however you imagine it, often I find that just kind of hooking up all the energy that's in my field that's not me, send it back to source to be recycled. Everything's recycled for the highest good of all. And then I can fill with my beautiful golden energy and light and own my field and my space. And again, these very simple tools are profound because they make it easier to align to who we are and our soul path and purpose.
So well said. I love it. Oh, it's just such relief when you said send it back. I realized I was carrying other people's energy, and it's like to send it back. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I think a lot of times when we, it's kind of funny. I almost look at it like either I walked into a fog bank, I guess is the, kind of nicest way, or sometimes I feel like I fell in a mud puddle, but depending on what the energy is, but I know it's not mine because all of a sudden I go from, hanging out, bopping around, being me, whatever, and to being like, ugh, God, I feel like all of a sudden I'm worried. I'm scared, I'm concerned. I'm like, oh, that's not me.
Right.
I don't know whose it is, but off you go, send it back to source, be recycled for the highest good of all, right? And so when I send it back to source, I can just imagine that it's being healed and cleared and purified before it goes back to that person. So it's going back to them with love, with a little healing attached, right? And it can be a whole collective, right? Maybe there was something on television that a lot of people watched and they went into fear, or maybe something happened in the community. And so it triggers everybody and then we feel it. And so again, boundaries are so important, and just noticing, oh, right, that's not me, that's not mine. I want to just send it back and then fill yourself up with your own highest light, your own highest energy. I like to use the Akashic wisdom. You can invite your highest, really soul information and wisdom to come down in that beautiful golden light, filling your whole body and your whole auric field.
So beautiful. I love it. So how else do you set up boundaries if you're walking into a certain situation and something doesn't feel right? For me, I'll just put like the shield of white light around me, but I'm wondering if there's any, like I go into a lot of different countries, right? So it's kind of like each time I enter, I ask to be safe, and I have been, and I usually put just light all around me. So I'm wondering if there's any other tools that you want to share with people when they walk into any situation, how they can feel safe and protected in any given moment.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it really is, I think there's a couple of layers. One, I like to pull my aura in really close around me, so I don't feel, and I'm not really kind of out there in the energy as much, right? So you can pull your aura within a couple of inches of you. It's just all fine. And again, just by filling yourself up with you, so you're solid, you're creating this rainbow shield, and you're making your statement that no one and nothing can enter my energy field or my body or my auric field without my permission or my consent. That is a layer. And then I love to call in Archangel Michael, and I sometimes will do like, I like Saint Germain and the violet flame. I imagine a beautiful violet flame all around my whole auric field. You know, so it can be white light, it can be your violet flame, you can call in the archangels. You know, it's really all perfect. Yeah, we're all very unique. So, you know, I always say, play with it, try it out, try white light, try violet flame, try gold, try the rainbow shield, call in the archangels, see what feels best for, you know, each of you, because we are, you know, beautiful, unique souls.
Yep, I love it. Oh, so good. Is there anything else you want to add, Lisa? Like, I don't even have any questions in this moment. I just feel just pure white light, and just kind of want to just share that with you and see what comes through you to share with the audience.
So one of the things that I would love to share is, as we go forward, is the record keepers are really wanting to bring through the beautiful light and vision of creating the new earth, bringing through that energy and vibration of peace and love and hope. Sometimes hope is the first step, right? And that no matter what it looks like out there, no matter what it feels like, let yourself stay in that beautiful divine love, knowing that what you are doing is creating your new earth. And I think that we're going to all have like a varying amount of different trajectories. And I think that not everybody's going to come with us the very first moment out, you know, as we're creating our new earth. So we may find some of our friends or family members kind of dropping away. They're just, you know, we might not see them as much. And, you know, I think a lot of us haven't seen them as it is anyway. And in some ways, it has given us the ability to be that sovereign soul, to be the truth of who you really are in this body, who you came to be. That soul plan you wrote is important for you. And so for you to walk that path, follow that soul plan and path that you wrote, is how you create your beautiful, you know, heaven on earth, or this beautiful new earth. And so the record keepers are just so filled with the energy. I just feel that beautiful kind of sparkly golden light flowing through. They're just saying, it's going to be beautiful. It is divine. So just letting go of any worry or doubt. Feel the divinity of the earth you are creating now.
So beautiful. As I see the golden sparkles that you're talking about, I do see that rainbow shield of light. And it was funny, another client was talking about Rainbow Bright, and it really is that full rainbow of light that goes across your field. Like when you were a little kid, do you remember Rainbow Bright, the horse? I mean, it's like, it's there. Like we're magical beings. They just get chills down my spine. Like it literally is that protection. And even on a walk this morning, this woman had a rainbow shirt on. I'm like, isn't that interesting? So just so beautiful. I'm just sitting with that. And I love how you say you're creating it, and it's from the inside out, right? As we embody this divine light, have our energetic boundaries, release what doesn't serve us, be into our sovereign selves. Like we are creating the new earth by being the change you wish to see and rippling that love out. So I know you have a soul signature process that you were sharing with me a little bit about. I'd love if you can share that with the audience, Lisa, and just such a gift you're here. I'm just really grateful to you.
Oh, absolutely. So it is a meditation that the record keepers gave me many years ago, because this will help you to expand kind of that soul signature, right? The unique energy vibration of your soul. And as we expand out around the world, we drop these beautiful little sprinkles of our soul symbol. And so to me, of course, everything looks like a little golden, sparkly symbols. But sometimes they'll show up like a heart or a musical note or a book or a pen. So different people see a symbol. It could be a triangle or a star. It doesn't matter what it is, or whether you see it as something in particular. I see golden flecks. I like little golden flecks of light. But it gives us the ability to set an intention to connect really deeply with whatever it is we're looking for. So sometimes it's new clients for the work that we're offering, or for our business, or maybe it is a brand new soul connected love. Maybe that beautiful person you're looking to spend some time with, is you want to send that out so you can call them to you. Really uniting your soul family, your deep soul friends, which are part of your soul family. So connecting to all the beautiful abundance of the universe through this meditation. So I just love to offer that, because I have people who email me back, and they were like, I have 5 new clients this week after doing that meditation. It's wild. Or I got a job offer right after I did the meditation, kind of thing. So it's very fun. It's a lovely light, again, very expansive, sparkly, I think.
So beautiful. I love it. Be the light that you are. Feels so good. That's so cool. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to leave the audience with today?
Just so much love from the Akashic record keepers and masters. And they're there. They just want to say, we are there for you. Each and every one of you has your own group of Akashic record keepers. So please don't hesitate to call on us. So just in your meditation, ask your record keepers if they have a message for you specifically. And don't be shy. That's what they're saying. Call on them. They're here for you.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Well, namaste, Lisa. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's always such a pleasure. And may just your light of your own intuition guide you moment by moment, step by step, so we can totally create this new earth together. All right. Bye.